Welcome to NAIOP series program titled The Borderless Marketplace, Repositioning Retail and Warehouse Properties for Tomorrow. My name is Elizabeth Sherrod, and I'll be your host. The Solution Series programs are available at no cost. These mini webinars run less than 30 minutes, and our goal is to provide you with some quick tips and insights, all types of strategies and tactics to help you succeed in today's business environment. Do you have a topic suggestion? Please email us at solutions@naiop.org to let us know what topics you would like to hear about in future programs. Next slide, please. Today's presentation is based on a research project funded by the NAIOP Research Foundation and the International Council of Shopping Centers. The NAIOP Research Foundation fosters building better communities through practical research and education that advances the quality and makes evident the benefits of commercial real estate ownership and development. These research projects support developers, owners, and others involved in commercial real estate to meet and exceed the needs and expectations of our communities now and in the future. Examples of completed research projects are listed on the current slide. For more information on the NAIOP Research Foundation or to view our completed research, please visit www.naioprf.org. Next slide, please. And now, let's get on with our program. With us today is Steve Schellenberg, Vice President of Business Development for IMS Worldwide, Inc. Steve has been involved in logistics, manufacturing, distribution, and transportation for over 20 years. His experience includes managing all aspects of automotive supply chains, global distribution, and third-party logistics. For the past 10 years, Steve has conducted assessments of global supply chains and has performed evaluations related to supply chain security enhancements, supply chain custody, and emerging radio frequency identification systems to identify container location, status, and condition. He has conducted significant port and infrastructure assessments related to logistics and industrial development opportunities. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's a great pleasure to be here to talk with you folks about this interesting and may I say, fast-changing subject. And my thanks also to NAIOP and to the International Council of Shopping Centers for commissioning the research effort. We made every effort to produce a report that demonstrates the changes and challenges in retail and commerce and how, where, and why transactions occur and how this impacts every sector of this and the supporting cast of logistics, the supply chain, and the decisions in site selection, as well as the industries that support the retail. The elements in today's discussion shown on this slide are the key ingredients in the report. And in fact, one of the challenges in the webinar like this is to boil down 6 months of research and 24 pages from the report into a mere 20 minutes that is still useful to the stakeholders in the supply chain who move goods between global origins to customers either directly or through a traditional storefront. The focus of this report is on the changes in transactions and storefronts and how this will continue to impact the entire logistics industry and the distribution networks that support these changes. With that said, I want you to recognize that the pace of change in retail, the e-commerce, the new commerce, and the logistics functions that support traditional and virtual commerce, that those channels are changing at a frantic pace. I normally start my comments on such a webinar or presentation by stating that when you save the content of a presentation like this, within minutes and surely days, the information has changed, and new strategies have emerged that must be considered in dealing with the challenges facing the industry and its participants. For example, just 2 weeks ago, after we concluded the findings of this report, a national retail chain announced that they would convert some space inside 200 of their 800 stores in critical markets to include space for a small pick, pack, ship, and distribution center from right inside the stores. In their selected market, this retailer has an immediate and very compelling platform to compete with the traditional warehouse-based fulfillment centers. And since they have so many mini-store distribution centers within their stores, they're assured of very low cost or free shipping, and next day or second day delivery is easily achieved. This example, sorry it wasn't included in our report, shows how one retailer is defining their strategy and shows the traditional relationship between the retail store and the distribution network is indeed very blurry, and how quickly things are changing in the retail space. What we're showing in this slide here is the evolution of the storefront. That traditional building, a bricks and mortar that historically supported transactions at a cash register. We moved quickly recently from traditional storefronts to printed and electronic catalogs to electronic browsers and computer-based transaction tethered to the internet. And only a short time ago, mobile devices were introduced that support conducting transactions from anywhere at any time. These conveniences, however, create a new challenge for the delivery systems required to support both traditional storefronts and the new delivery methods of delivery of goods to individual quantities to individuals at a destination and time of their choice. These are the new commerce processes. The first two are more mature, and I will show you the expected growth in these sectors of retail and the new commerce platforms. The third, social media-based commerce, is very early in its evolution, and there have been many stops and starts already by some retailers on the way to making this commerce transaction hosting advertising process a mainstream success. As we noted in our research report, several leading retailers have already launched and have already closed in some of their social commerce efforts, further reflecting this form of commerce really is still in evolution. This is the critical finding of our research report, as it points to the scale of changes in how and where transactions in the retail sector will occur. As transactions move from the traditional storefront to the virtual storefront, supported by e-commerce or m-commerce and soon the social commerce platform, these shifts will drive a demand to significantly reconfigure the supply chains and the logistics systems to support these changes in the flow of goods between factories and consumers. We note here and in the report that the volume of goods transacted outside the storefront today is about 7 to 9% of the total retail spend, which runs about $400 billion a month. But the significance of the amount of growth predicted in just a few years to total almost 1/4 of the total retail that will be outside the traditional storefront, and that is where the challenge is for the logistics industry and the supporting cast of distribution networks, warehouses, manufacturing, delivery systems, and the necessary information platforms are required to accomplish delivering a single item ordered by a specific individual to a specific location at a designated time. The logistics process must keep pace with this expected growth, and that's where the challenge is. Total retail growth in 2012 is expected to cross 3.4% across the entire industry. However, in contrast, Amazon grew its platform last year by 39%, and in the same time frame, Walmart's e-commerce platform grew at about 17%. So not only is this new commerce platform growing faster than traditional retail sector, it's creating new demand for capacity to deliver the goods. This means the traditional networks that once supported retail store replenishment must be configured. It also means that the manner in which goods are managed outside the typical warehouse or retail distribution center will change. It means access to transportation systems that can deliver low-cost shipping are elevated higher in the site selection criteria to support this new commerce. This slide shows you a picture of the growth of this retail e-commerce sector, 7-fold increase since 2000. And the key takeaway and finding in our report is that this new commerce sector represents an opportunity for the retailer to reach beyond the storefront to a new group of global buyers in what we call this new borderless marketplace, which will in the future make the growth of this chart look minimal, but more on that in a minute. What are the implications for the retail and the logistics industry? And again, this chart supports the elements of new commerce, and it's really to the core of our report that we found these to be critical considerations. The challenges for the retailer who must build a new commerce strategy is that all these elements must be delivered in a manner that's cost-effective, efficient, and predictable to the buyer. I want to focus on one element on this list, and that's the second to last item on the slide. That is the issue of reconfiguration of retail properties and distribution centers. Supply chains, as we discussed in our report, are merely global conveyor belts that deliver goods from manufacturing centers anywhere in the globe to individuals. Again, anywhere in the globe. And those systems are changing in order to continue to support that traditional storefront while still accommodating the demands of this new commerce. We also pointed out in the report that warehouse and distribution networks that are purpose-built or dedicated to support e-commerce must be reconfigured inside the walls of the facility. Items per order, products per order, The size of the orders must be accommodated, and the warehouse must support manual storage and retrieval, high-volume order storage and retrieval, and in some cases even automated high-frequency voice applications for storage and retrieval. And it all comes down to the consumer demands, and this list of questions from consumers is the compelling reason why these changes are occurring so fast. It's not just in the order management, that demand part of the supply chain, but also in the way that the retailer responds to the demand chain by creating and crafting a new supply chain. The way the consumer wants to answer these questions also changes the method through which the retailer must process the order, and it's creating a demand for a new process in delivering the orders as well. The logistics system that moves goods from the buyer to the seller, either through a store or to a store directly for the consumer, must be able to adjust its pace to meet the specific delivery requirements, and it must still remain competitive and predictable. In this slide, we tried to show a picture or a graphic of the choices facing the retailer and his distribution system and network. Some retailers will choose to blend both channels into their existing network. Others will develop and deploy purpose-built fulfillment centers to support e-commerce, and others will pick locations in different sites because the traditional storefront supporting distribution center requirements from site selection may in fact be different from the requirements for e-commerce fulfillment centers. One finding in the report was that the demand profile for e-commerce ordering, that is the stock units that are ordered, is vastly different from the demand profiles for the traditional storefront, and they occur at a different pace as well. So the order-driven demand pattern for e-commerce is a real challenge for the retailer as he starts his business. And in fact, in some cases, the factories have to ramp up to support and meet the disparity between typical retail demands and the new e-commerce demands. Some retailers support stores daily, others stock stores once or twice a week. These strategies are based around the number of distribution centers in the network and the pace of transactions in the storefront. However, for the e-commerce, or that section of the e-commerce or of the warehouse that's dedicated to e-commerce, the distribution center requirements are vastly different. Manpower demands are different. The need to hand off to a local or regional transportation providers is now daily, and in fact, the activities that occur inside the warehouse must occur on a daily and sometimes even on an hourly basis. The four elements really in our process in terms of capturing consumer demands, these are very abbreviated. There's a great more detail provided in the report. But just in terms of the free shipping and easy returns, we noted that 75% of consumers abandon their electronic shopping cart if shipping is not free. Returns also have to be easy. They have to be quick to process and very friendly. For example, we found and noted an example of a retailer, a high-end fashion retailer in China who solved the problem of returns in a very creative manner. For certain thresholds of orders and volumes, the delivery agent is actually told to wait for up to 15 minutes at the customer's door while the fashions are being tried on and approved by the customer. When the goods are deemed to be satisfactory, the delivery agent will receive a signed delivery receipt, or if the goods are rejected, the return process starts immediately. In this case, only one trip to the consumer is required, and the returns process is quickly managed. We also observed that in the case of packaging, it's important to understand the rules that the ground and air carriers use to price their services, specifically based on dimensional weight or on actual weight. That's the dimensions of the carton. If they're larger than the weight and they take up more space in the aircraft or the truck, the charges are based around the dimensional weight rather than the actual weight. Small changes in package configuration then can make a significant impact on the cost of goods shipped. And for the global sales platform where air cargo is a necessity, this is a really, really important consideration. Finally, there are some new regulatory initiatives that are in process that will potentially change distribution networks that support retail and e-commerce. Two initiatives that may also change delivery networks, driver availability, and potentially costs are the new hours of service requirements and the CSA, the Compliance, Safety, and Accountability initiatives that are pending within the Department of Transportation. This is where the opportunity really lives in new e-commerce. While there's a great deal of growth in the U.S., the opportunity for global transactions is both interesting and challenging. Creating a sales platform that meets these requirements, a platform that can calculate costs while the order is being processed or while the shopping event is still occurring, is not only challenging, it's difficult and expensive. And as more countries are added to the sold to roster, as you broaden the base out to more and more countries, not only do the complexities increase, but it also means that more custodians must be engaged in moving the goods between the origins and the customers. In this context, a good global trade partner who has standing in international trade, transportation, and customs services is not optional. It's really required. So the question of social commerce, and the evidence that these companies, perhaps others, will emerge and that will successfully integrate social media and advertising and retail and movies and entertainment and commercials, and most important, these companies are looking to enter the retail transaction hosting or managing part of that transaction process. In this case, the retail margins, which are already thin, must be reviewed, and if a small percentage of that retail transaction is handed off to another party, these overall costs must be viewed as critical. The choice to yield a slice of the transaction to another company must be balanced against the benefits of the extended market share, new channels for sales that occur outside the traditional storefront. But we asked the question about social commerce and its sustainability, and the answer in the future may be very different than what we're perceived today. And so we'll have to watch this sector of the business to observe when and how the growth into transactions and retail begins to get traction. What's ahead in retail? A few final observations regarding how the business and logistics change and all the elements that have a role in moving the goods from production centers to consumers. They must all be carefully evaluated, not only for cost considerations, but to confirm that they're meeting the customer's demands on their terms, in their time frame, if and when they choose, even in their pajamas. Our conclusion is that the pace of change is frantic, but we are living at a time when the retail industry is evolving with its new supporting cast of logistics services and distribution networks into a new system to support the new growth in the context of what we call a borderless marketplace. As we concluded in our report, some 10 years ago, Walmart executives said they were not a retailer, really a supply chain managing company. And at the start of his leadership at FedEx, Fred Smith said that their company was in the information business, not in the air cargo business. Both of these perspectives then were far more prophetic than we may have realized. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, my contact information is provided.
Steve, thanks for a great presentation and giving us an overview of your research report on the growth of electronic commerce and how it affects the retail and warehouse industry. For more information on the NAIOP Research Foundation or to view other completed research, please visit www.naiop.rf.org. The NAIOP Solution Series is on hiatus for the summer. Our next program will take place on September 11. Watch your email for NAIOP Source or corporate e-newsletter for the program link. Thank you for listening to our session and have a good day.